Welcome to the fire, my friend. Hunker down for a rest as I tell you a story about an adventurer who invested heavily into necklaces of fireballs. 56 necklaces of fireballs. R/D&D stories posted by Nelson6719. So, this is a story certainly. This happened in Pathfinder years ago, and I felt compelled to share it after going down memory lane. I'm incredibly foggy on the details, so bear with me if this sounds like a ramble. I'll put a TLDR at the end. This was at a time long before 5e was out, or at least in our scope at the time. You probably clicked on this thinking, oh my gosh, what did you do with all these fireballs? What was the encounter? Did the party wipe? In order, we'll get to that. It was the final encounter of the entire campaign. Fortunately, nobody died. Technically, more on that later. Setup. This post can get pretty long if I have to explain Mythic Levels. Just imagine the piety system from Theros and you're set. It's basically the same thing, but not explicitly god-tied and really destroys game balance exponentially. Tier 10 is the height you can go, which is crazy powerful. We were an 8 to 9 or so crew of players meeting online thanks to our WoW group. Our DM, incidentally the raid leader, has a homebrew he's been adding onto throughout the years of his time playing D&D in other games. It was about as high fantasy can get, minus copyright infringement because we all have some semi-balance of creativity to be original. We meet online as all of us live in different parts of North America. Given the large influx of players, our DM had to create very specific and meticulous encounters, so each combat felt more in-depth and were always a hike up in difficulty. We would do milestones, and these milestones would include gold total to make up for there not being any loot from encounters, unless story specific, of course. One of our party members in particular made the story of the table with what he ended up doing on the final encounter of the entire campaign. This was by no means a success story for the encounter. Let's call him Z. The party, and Z included, was in a dome with the BBEG. The BBEG was then also in another dome that was invulnerable to everything essentially, and we had to deal with 4 crazy and different kinds of elementals, one of which was a gravity elemental, which is a thing, and is freaking awesome. BTW, that's the only reason why I'm mentioning it. One of the other elementals managed to deal some form of fire damage to Z. Z just starts laughing, saying he needed the DM to make some saving throws, because he revealed he had some necklaces of fireballs. DM says, "Wait, you do?" Everything was kind of a blur of exclamations and laughter at that point, because it was then revealed that apparently Z had not 1, not 2, but 56 or so, I forget, necklaces of fireballs, unused and of every possible spell level. To explain real quick, for those who might not know, Necklace of Fireballs in Pathfinder, as it is in D&D 5e, a beaded necklace where each bead can be removed and thrown to create the effects of a fireball spell when worn. In Pathfinder, different beads have different spell levels of fireballs, and different necklaces have different available spell levels ranging from whatever the minimum is all the way to max level 9th level spell. The danger is whether or not you have the necklace out or worn, so long as it's on your person. Whenever you take fire damage, you have to roll a flat d20, no modifier, saving throw DC 7 for each bead in order for it to not erupt right then and there. And I think, on average, there's like 10 or so beads per necklace. So, my poor DM had to shift through what each damage of each level of fireball that were on each necklace that Z had, because true to the game, he did roll the saving throw, but enough of them failed that he refused to make any more rolls, just understanding that if that many already erupted, they all would have. Z happily agreed. I think the amount of damage he took was something along the lines of 800, 900, 1,000 fire damage, as we just see Z's character frickin' explode. It was certainly the highest number I've seen rolled for actual gameplay to date. Fortunately, nobody else but an elemental that was immune to fire damage was in the blast. Unfortunately though, Z was just gone without any trace, and because we were in a vacuum, the DM said that the explosion was so intense and so strong that all breathable air went missing for maybe 10 minutes or less. Many of us had the ability to not worry about needing to breathe because mythic powers, but ultimately combat went on. Combat ended when our sorceress used a very clever wish spell, and we closed the game by going into a cryo chamber for an upcoming sci-fi based sequel game. Z would later come back to life thanks to a mythic power he had, which just brings him back to life if he would be slain in combat in some random spot a little ways from where he died after some time went by. The conclusion. So, the thing that happened was that he started buying these necklaces of fireballs because he, as a player, felt like he didn't need to buy any more equipment to be optimal. So he just started stacking up necklaces of fireballs. He started doing this at like level 8 or so, and the final encounter was when we were at level 20, Mythic Tier 10. He somehow had managed all this time to not take any fire damage, which is crazy considering at some point we were in a volcano, had a couple of dragon encounters, and fought spellcasters that use fire magic, each on different occasions since then. My wife and I talk about it to this day, and probably many more years to come, because it left an impression so hard on us that it was such a good moment. And it's moments like those that truly transcend the boundaries of the brand in tabletop games. TLDR. Village Idiot buys 56 necklaces of fireballs thanks to our DM's milestone-based loot system, and somehow managed to not catch on fire from level 8 to the final encounter at level 20, Mythic 10, where it finally, incidentally, ignites. It was an amazingly hilarious moment. Now that's a fantastic story. And hey, when you gotta go, make sure to make it impactful. And that's our story. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button for more future content. Also, if you would kindly follow the socials posted in the description, that would be amazing. As always, be good, be great, be awesome.